Good morning from Chicagoland. We're not actually in Chicago, but we're close enough, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I am Tom Orr, joined by Tony Gerdeman. We're going to be spending the whole day not quite in Chicago, but close enough. We'll be in Evanston for the Ohio State Northwestern game. Almost said Notre Dame. Northwestern game starting at noon Eastern. However, right now, Tony, 9 a.m. Eastern, which means it is time for the Ohio State availability report. The number one thing everyone is immediately looking for when we start these pregame shows. So, okay, let's not keep people waiting. I think, one thing we knew was going to happen. Jackson Smith and Jigba, not a big surprise. He is unavailable today. Something that was, we had sort of heard like maybe no Travion Henderson today. So that's kind of interesting. And we will talk a little bit about the weather conditions and the importance of the running game today and what that might all entail a little later on. The other name on here that's kind of a significant name that was, maybe not. No Cam Brown today. I don't expect Northwestern to be slinging the pigskin all over the field, so missing a corner is probably not the biggest deal. The other names on here, Cameron Babb, T.C. Caffey, Lloyd McFarquhar, Mitchell Melton, Jalen Pace, Evan Pryor, Bradley Robinson, the long snapper, likely done for the season, Caden Saunders, one of the backup running backs, and Court Williams. So let's start with Travion Henderson. Yeah. This is a day when we are anticipating Ohio State is probably going to be leaning on the run perhaps more than normal. How significant is it for Travion Henderson to not be in the game?
I think it's quite significant because we already have questions about Mayan Williams, who the other big news, he's not on the list. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a positive. But how much do you rely on him? How much do you let him carry you? And this is a running game that has struggled the last couple of weeks. And so you need to be able to run the ball. You want to have some momentum. You need to have success. You can't just rely on the passing game in this kind of weather and this kind of wind. It's not very smart to do that. So you're going to want to establish the run somehow. And even if it's not establishing the run, you want to be able to run. Maybe you establish the pass and then go to the run. However you want to do it, the running game needs to be there. Without Travion Henderson in there, does this overwork Mayan Williams? Like if your knee hurts and then you like walk differently and you end up hurting your other knee or an ankle or something because you're leaning on something, you're using something in a different way. Is this a positive thing for Mayan Williams, who has had the hand thing from last week, the knee thing from previous weeks? I feel like all in all, if you play Mayan Williams, they're going to do everything they can not to play him as much as, break a sweat maybe.
Yeah, you wonder if Mayan Williams is here almost as a break glass in case of emergency thing, because you have another couple scholarship healthy, running backs or running back adjacent folks in the true freshman Dallin Hayden, but also Chip Trainum, who played running back for a couple of years at Arizona State, transferred to Ohio State to play linebacker, and then they sort of got a tap on the shoulder a few weeks ago, like, "Hey, buddy, remember when we said you were going to play linebacker? What about helping us out at running back? Because we might be a little shy of folks at running back with Evan Pryor out. Travion Henderson's been banged up at times. Mayan Williams has been banged up at times, and you're not going to be thrilled to start a true freshman and not have another healthy scholarship running back.
Yeah, so even your top two walk-ons are hurt.
Yeah. T.C. Caffey is out. Caden Saunders is out. Yeah, they are going through running backs like Spinal Tap went through drummers.
Do you think it's going to be Chip Trainum to get the start?
Well, Tony, if you listen to our bold prediction show, and I would certainly hope that you did, as you were on it.
Well, mine has really taken a hit.
Yes.
Because I have 4 rushers of at least like 38 yards or something like that. So
yeah,
I still need that C.J. Stroud 40-yard run and no sacks.
Maybe. It does. I do wonder about it. How much are they really planning to rely on Mayan Williams? Because he's had kind of a knee thing. He missed a little time with that, and then had the fingers last week during Carmen, Ohio last week. His ring finger and pinky finger on his right hand were in kind of like a splint. His arm was in a sling. He looked very much like a guy who should probably not play the next couple weeks and just get healthy. Well, he's here. This is just speculation on my part. If it's me, I am saying Dallin Hayden and or Chip Trainum, go get him, Tiger. And if really you're in the second half and you're really struggling and you gotta put Mayan Williams out there. That's fine. Mayan Williams, I think, has been probably their most consistent and best running back for long stretches this season. So I'm sure they want to have him here, but I'm guessing they probably would also like to not have to use him if they don't have to.
I think it's a Max Lamonaco situation. The backup long snapper, the backup who is now starting. You bring him in case of emergency. I think that's smart. Dallin Hayden, highly recruited 4-star guy. This isn't too much for him. He's from a football family. Chip trained him. He's been a Power 5 star, off and on starting running back for 2 years before he got to Ohio State. If there was a road environment in which to break those two guys out and have them lead the team, on the ground, it's this one where it's going to be 60 to 70% Ohio State fans. Although with the weather, I think a lot of people. I even got a Buckeye fan in my DMs. Like, I've got tickets, but I'm probably just going to watch it from a pro Buckeye bar because of the weather. I think there's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah, this is not going to be a week where they probably need to worry about silent count. Would be my guess. Because this is Northwestern team that has not won a game on American soil this year, and I think Northwestern students are smart. Just ask them; they'll tell you. But they are also smart enough to know what a 38-point spread means and what, hey, we haven't won a game since August, and the number 2 team in the country is coming to town means. So I'm going to guess this will not be the most full, raucous student section you have seen all year. So this is probably going to be a subdued atmosphere, let's say. So yeah, this is going to be an okay time, and this is not an incredibly daunting defense that they're facing. Their defense is better than their offense, Northwestern, but that maybe says more about the offense than it does about the defense. Dallin Hayden, I just pulled up his stats. He has carried the ball 54 times for 255 yards this season. That's a decent. I mean, that's a decent amount. He's played in 6 games. He's so he's gotten carries. Most of that has been third, fourth quarter kind of carries. But this is also not, throwing the true freshman out there who for his first ever appearance and saying, well, good luck out there. We're going that way.
50 carries is a lot for when Demario McCall was a true freshman. Even Ezekiel Elliott, when they were true freshmen, like they had maybe 35, 40 carries, something like that. And so him already having that number, and the thing is, he's averaging 5 yards, I think right under 5 yards a carry. But doing that when the defense knows Ohio State is running it, and doing that with a second-team offensive line for the most part. So now he will have an opportunity to run behind a first-team offensive line on 2nd and 2, on 1st and 10. Various opportunities, and I think we'll get a good look because he's looked good early in the season when he was part of the offense and getting out there, and he was always like really, really close to breaking something. Then he broke one. But I'm interested, excited to see these two because they're pretty new in terms of we haven't gotten to see them, so they're still flashy. Still, certainly for Chip Trainum, I don't know that what percentage of Buckeye fans have actually seen him carry the ball, more than once in a game 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't think many.
Yeah, I don't think many. And Chip Trainum has literally 1 carry for 9 yards in his Ohio State career. We were talking earlier this afternoon, and you were thinking you might have missed it because you might have been in the elevator coming downstairs after, towards the end of whatever game that was that he carried the ball in. So, yeah, it is. He will be a new face, and I think people are going to look at him as a little bit of a novelty. Like, oh, hey, look, they're playing a linebacker at running back. Well, it's the craziest thing you've ever seen. It's like, well, I mean, he's actually played a lot more snaps at running back over the years than linebacker.
I think he might end up being one of the talking points that comes out of this game, where the portion of the fan base or the media that has sort of given up on Travion Henderson, or wants to see other players get the ball. I think they may have more fuel after this one, watching Chip Trainum just hit the hole, because that's what he's going to do. He's not going to be dancing or anything like that, but it's up to the offensive line to open those holes, which they've done here and there the last couple of weeks. And defensively, like you said, Northwestern is a better defense than they are on offense, but it's not a defense that should should contain the running game, Tom. And I know we talked about the Penn State defense giving up 400 yards rushing to Michigan and then 90-some to Ohio State. If Ohio State is held under 100 yards rushing in this game, there will be every reason and excuse for that to happen with, as we assume, no Mine Williams, no Travion Henderson. But it would still be a signal that the offensive line is not fixed.
Yeah, this is one of those things where Justin Fry came in January saying, we have to, when the whole stadium knows we're going to run it on 3rd and 2, we still have to be able to run the ball. I think that is we'll get to the weather in a minute, but on a day when we're talking about 40-mile-an-hour winds where passing the ball may be somewhere between difficult and impossible, depending on what the wind is doing at any given moment, the whole stadium knows you're probably going to have to run it. This is potentially the equivalent of some of those, Notre Dame played like North Carolina State in one of those hurricane games, and just, the game ends up 10-9 because everyone knows you're going to run it, and it's, it's just a wetter version of the Snow Bowl, basically. This is going to be a variation on that potentially. Ohio State has to be able to run the ball, and when Northwestern knows you're running it, that's this is not Northwestern knowing you're going to run it is probably the equivalent of just a regular Michigan defense. So you've got to be able to run it at least a little bit. If they could, if they're running for 4.5, 5 yards a carry today, I think great, thumbs up. That's probably plenty because Northwestern's not going to be able to match that. And there's a certain point of this which is just Northwestern's not going to be able to score that many points. So if Ohio State can just string together a few drives and get it into the 20s, you feel safe. And then anything after that, if you want to get out of town mode, you certainly could.
I also don't think Ohio State is not going to be able to throw the ball. You don't have to throw the ball 30 yards. You can throw the ball 8 yards, 10 yards, quick stuff, mesh routes, across the middle there. And those are, 8 yards, 9 yards. That's easy enough in this kind of wind and weather. So I think that will be part of it. I do think we'll see some cheap yards from the jet sweeps. I think that is, and that would also help the running game, frankly. If you want to get the receivers involved, that's a much safer way of doing it than the wide screens that we saw, the bubble screens that we saw the week before, because as we talked about yesterday, those may be thrown at the line of scrimmage, but they're thrown to the sideline. So they're, 25-yard, 20-yard throws. And in this kind of wind, that can blow the ball right to the defense that is trying to run and blow something up.
Or it can hang the ball up and give the defender a chance to get one step closer or whatever it is. Yeah, this feels like a game where you're not going to see a lot of way downfield passing. Now, we're anticipating the wind. I just checked an updated weather forecast. They're still talking about winds out of the southwest. So that is on your TV screen. If you are blessed enough to not be standing on the field today and watching from the comfort and warmth of your home, that is going to be the bottom right-hand corner of your TV screen towards the top left of your TV screen. So when Ohio State is going from right to left on your TV screen, you may have an opportunity, if the wind is blowing behind you, throw one up and let, CJ Stroud may underthrow a ball and let the wind kind of get it there. That you have an opportunity. This is not impossible to throw the ball downfield, but it's going to be real difficult to throw the ball downfield probably 2 quarters of the game, right? So I think you're going to you may go a little bit of the wide stuff. I'm right there with you on the jet sweep thing. You can count it as a pass if you're worried about CJ Stroud's passing yardage numbers. The little flip forward, that's fine. That counts as a pass. But that ball is in the air a lot less time. There's fewer defenders around, and you still get that sideline to sideline action that Ryan Day is looking for.
And it also helps the running game when you use that as a run fake. You use the jet motion as a run fake. That gives a little bit of time for the running backs, and it freezes the defense a little bit, which helps these running backs. I do think they're going to be okay this morning with the running game, where those two guys, Dallin Hayden has shown some things. Chip Trainum will want to show some things. So I think they're going to be okay. I think there'll be some flashing there, and I think there'll be some excitement for Buckeye fans.
I think so too. You get the sense that they'll be able to run the ball enough. And there's a little bit of a but with all three of the guys. Mine Williams has been, I think, consistently their best running back this year. Yeah, but they probably don't want to use him. Dallin Hayden has, run the ball a good amount. I mean, 54 carries. Just to put this in perspective, you talked about some of the other true freshmen. Dallin Hayden has 54 carries. Mayan Williams only has 76. I mean, there's not that much of a gap between those guys in terms of how much they've run the ball this year. But Dallin Hayden is not a big, bulky back like Mayan Williams is. He's not necessarily as built to run between the tackles. How well is he going to hold up in pass pro? He hasn't been asked to do a lot of pass pro. So how will he do in that? That's a little bit of a thing to watch today. And then Chip Trainum. Chip Trainum's played running back in college. This is not a brand new thing to him. You get the sense that they are comfortable with him with ball security to a certain degree, but he hasn't run behind this offensive line. There is sometimes more to being a running back than just saying the play is designed to go in the A gap. Yeah. So you're running in the A gap, and how much blitz pickup has Chip Trainum done? How much? There's a lot of stuff that he has not. How well versed is he in all the stuff with the Ohio State offense? That's kind of the about with him, because I think physically he's probably their biggest, healthiest, best option today. But it's like all the other stuff is kind of the about there.
There may be some plays where you're like, okay, that's some rust, or that's not enough practice, or CJ Stroud turns one way and Chip Trainum is on the other side, where it's, look, I'm trying here, okay. But he also may be the short yardage guy, being like 5'11", 225, something like that, a bigger back. So somebody that can push the pile like Mayan Williams did on his 4-yard touchdown run last week. You give it to Chip and just let him push and push and push. And so looking forward to seeing how they do today, and looking for some running back controversy moving forward out of this one.
Yeah, anything to have a post-game show topic of to get people all riled up about. Absolutely. In the passing game, we talked a little bit about the downfield routes and all that kind of stuff. You've got pretty much everyone back. No Jackson Smith-Njigba. Everyone else is healthy. This does feel a little bit like this might be a Cade Stover game, or where you're going to have a lot of the, if you can throw the ball 8-10 yards down the field, no matter how windy it is. CJ Stroud's got the arm to throw, especially between the hashes, 8-10 yards down the field. That it feels like you might try and live in that space and run, try and get the linebacker sucked up, and then just run a crosser behind them, with one of the receivers or with Cade Stover. This is going to be probably more of a complementary passing game today, but there are ways to get Northwestern set up where you can get an 80-yard touchdown through the air, where the ball's only in the air for 8 or 10 yards, and then there's a long catch and run after that.
Very much. And even the mesh routes that go vertical, like that only needs to be like a 15 or 20-yard pass. Like even a quick seam route to Julian Fleming or Emeka Ibuka last week, or maybe it was even the week before, where it's just a quick recognition. You throw it as hard as you can, as quickly as you can, and it's just a little, nice direct flight. And I think those are still going to be available. I just, like you might see the first and the third quarter, or whichever 2 quarters they have the win, you take some shots if you want to. You don't need to. If everything else is working, fine. If you don't even want to risk it, that's fine as well. I do. It would be probably be a little surprising if they don't, because that's just their nature. Like, this is what we do, so we're not going to not try it. We're not going to succumb to the elements. This is what we do, so we'll do it. And then you do it once and you throw deep and it's like 14 yards beyond the receiver. You're like, okay, we tried. There's just it's not going to work.
Yeah, that's going to be the real challenge. I think you may have to have guys wide open to be willing to throw downfield. And Ohio State has the receivers to potentially get wide open. Northwestern this year giving up 4.5 yards per rush, 7.68 yards per pass. Neither of those are great. I mean, they're not. Those are 4.5 is. If Ohio State rushes for 4.5, that would be an okay result, I think, today.
It'd be kind of disappointing.
It would be. Well, let me rephrase that. If Ohio State runs for 4.5 on average, that's like an okay day against a worse, a not so great rush defense like Northwestern. You'd like to see it north of 5, and if it's north of 5, I think Ohio State wins this game comfortably.
Yeah, and honestly, if it's 5 and the longest rush is 17 yards, like even more so, they're just pushing and dominating the front and just moving the chains. And really, I think that's going to be the focus. Just move the chains, Stay ahead of schedule. That way, if we do need to throw, it's 3rd and 3 and not 3rd and 9. And that's probably one of the big focuses is just let's keep it 3rd and short. That way we can still do whatever we want. You don't want to lose yardage on the first down. So I do wonder if there's going to be maybe more running on first down so that you can get that first little chunk because you don't want to have 2nd and 10.
Yes, keep it 2nd and manageable is what you're looking for. And if you're throwing in first down, it's probably a lot of the shorter, can they get a bubble screen and get the blocks out in front of it this week? That would be, I think if they have about 2 bubble screens that go nowhere, Ohio State fans are going to be losing their minds.
These are not Penn State's corners, though.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And this is it. I think you're going to get guys playing up though, playing press because I don't think there's a reason to give people a cushion.
Yeah.
I mean, go take away the easy throw and make them make a hard throw. I think that has to be your game plan today if you're Northwestern. But then you're opening up stuff downfield, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I realize we're talking all about the weather. I don't think we've actually given people an updated forecast on the weather. We talked about it a little bit on our live show on Friday and on the Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning show. Just to give you a quick update, we are looking at an updated thing. It is very strong winds causing hazardous waves on Lake Michigan. South storm force winds to 50 knots, significant waves to 9 to 12 feet expected on Lake Michigan, which is, if you have not been to Ryan Field, Lake Michigan is very close to Ryan Field. I mean, I don't know, 5-minute walk, maybe something, 10-minute walk, not far. So we're talking a real windy. Like the Michigan State game, the wind impacted that game a little bit, and the wind in that one was like 15 to 20 miles an hour. We're talking like double that. So this is going to be maybe the windiest Ohio State game we've seen in. When was the last good wind game? I can remember rain games, snow games. I can't remember a real good wind game.
You said 9 to 12 feet waves.
9 to 12 feet waves out on Lake Michigan. Yes, those are monster waves. Like I said on one of those, I think it was the live show. I mean, those are like Edmund Fitzgerald waves. That is real serious. Yeah, that is real serious waves. And fortunately, waves will not be a consideration during the game, but the wind certainly will. Well, if they are, we have bigger problems. Yes. So, yes, Kevin Noon behind the camera doing the wave like the fans do.
I don't think that wave will be an impact either.
No, I don't expect a lot of wave participation in the crowd either. Other side of the ball. Let's talk real quickly about Northwestern's offense, and we don't have to talk much to talk about all of their offensive prowess. We have gone through a bunch of the Grizzly stats at various points during the week. All season long, we're here in November. Northwestern has scored a whopping 7 points off of turnovers all season long. That is a real damning mix of, boy, your defense isn't great, and boy, your offense isn't great, all bundled into one neat little package.
And to think that if Northwestern doesn't have if they're not shut out, there's a pretty good chance their points come off of a turnover. In this one. So maybe they go from 7 to 10 on the season. But again, as we've said before, field goals in this one, I don't know that you're even going to try that. And so that leads to more 4th down conversions. And Tom, as we know, Ohio State, not to get back to their offense, 10 of 10 on the season, the only 100% team in 4th down conversions this season. But Northwestern, I think for them, if they want to win, don't even try the field goals because you're not. First off, field goals are not going to win the game.
Right. 2,
you're probably not going to make it. And even if you do make it, what'd you get out of it?
3 points.
Oh, is that right?
That is right. Yes, that is. Are you new here? Come on. Haven't I done these shows with you before? We've talked about football before. I know we have at some point. Yes, but against Ohio State, Tony, it may surprise you to learn I am also not in favor of kicking field goals or punting the ball on 4th and short. Like, go ahead and play to win the game. Try and win the game. That's what you're getting paid money for.
Tom, as much as you hate the punt, is this a game where you might see it become used as an offensive weapon?
It does feel
the Wind Bowl.
It does feel like this is a game where you may see Ohio State. If they're at midfield, and if this is 17-0 in the third quarter, you may just kind of punt it away and say, "Okay, good luck going 95 yards." And the interesting question there is, okay, we're in college football playoff ranking season. Is Ryan Day going to coach this game solely to survive in advance? Is Ryan Day going to coach this game to win the game, but also win the game by 30-something points so that it doesn't look bad and the committee doesn't say, well, they didn't have a very good game against Northwestern? Or is he doing all of that, but also saying, boy, it would be really good if CJ Stroud got a couple touchdown passes and had some nice looking passing stats. I don't know that you're ever going to get him to admit it, but we saw him throw a 70-something yard touchdown pass toward the end of the Iowa game to get CJ Stroud some additional stats. So you tell me.
Yeah, lots of other facets going into this game where maybe the thought process isn't exactly where it should be. And you're trying to, and they say they never do this, but you're trying to check off a lot of boxes in this one with the passing game and all sorts of different things. And on the road, you have to be careful with that. No matter how bad the team is, you still have to be wary of it.
Yeah. So we are getting close to the bottom of the hour. When we get to the bottom of the hour, we're going to kind of reset, give you another run through that availability report for people who may have joined us a little late. But before we do that, I do want to go to a piece from our buddy Ross Fulton. He is one of our X's and O's gurus at Buckeye Huddle. Every week he's on the pregame show here, kind of giving you a little bit of more of a schematic look at things, because we cover the team, but we are not scheme gurus in the same way that Ross and Justin and Devin are. So this is why we have our wonderful team at Buckeye Huddle. We have our recruiting guys, we have our scheme guys, we have our team guys. So let's go to one of our scheme guys, Ross Fulton, with a little bit of a preview of the Northwestern-Ohio State game.
So Ohio State has a task coming off a big win at Penn State to turn around and go to Northwestern in a potentially rainy game against likely the worst team in the Big Ten. So there obviously some motivational challenges attached to that. The key thing for Ohio State is, despite being a big win, there's a lot of things execution-wise that they could clean up. And so that's the kind of stuff that I'll be looking for. Like, those bubble screens have to remain a part of the Ohio State game plan. Like, they can't protect their run plays without it. So, we will obviously all, caveats apply in terms of opponent. But nevertheless, you want to see better execution on the edge. You want to see better blocking. You want to see better blocking grades for Cade Stover and Marvin Henderson and Julian Fleming on those types of screens. Similarly, I'd like to see Ohio State again, get back to the even more diverse run game that they were using prior to the bye week. So run plays like wind back, or how they use that same side pin and pull, power, counter tray. You'd like to see those become part of the game plan again, and not just as a thing that you use against inferior opponents to put it on film, so that you can just use your base run plays. And they do need to find a way to figure out if Trayvon Henderson's going to play, what works for him. I liked him on those inside zone runs from pistol, and hopefully they get Mayan Williams back, which should help the run game. And again, just execution up front in terms of handling stunts and identifying things in zone blocking. And then on defense, Northwestern did throw for quite a few yards against Iowa. Granted, a lot of it's underneath and short stuff, but it will provide, further practice, to be frank, for the Ohio State pass defense. They still need to get the corner position figured out opposite Denzel Burke. It would be nice to get Cam Brown back. Jordan Hancock's coming along, but you need that solidified. And then you just need to work on, they've been a primarily cover 3 team. They need to be able to better handle route distributions in their defense. They'd had some breakdowns earlier this year, but they sort of were covered up by playing either the opponent or just getting pressure that negated that issue. And so, some of those came to the fore against Penn State. And so they need to continue to drill down on pass defense. And obviously, you want to play a clean game and show that you are able to handle, again, playing on the road in inclement weather, and fix some of the issues that have come up the last 2 weeks.
All right. Thank you to Ross for putting that together for us. Always like hearing him talk about it. And if you want to hear more from Ross on, honestly, not about this game, but more about the Ohio State season on the whole, and where, how big of a concern is it to him about the Ohio State rushing attack the last few weeks? does he buy into you have to throw sideline to sideline in order to throw downfield, all that kind of stuff. Had him on the episode of Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning that dropped on Thursday evening. So you can find that in your podcast platform of choice in the Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning feed. You can also find it right here on youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. I always title the Ross Fulton episodes Ross Fulton analysis : whatever it is, because I think Ross at this point is a name in that field and very respected. And if you listen to him talk about football, it's like, oh, I see why people like to listen to him talk about football, because you come away feeling a little smarter. So
yeah, and we also added Buckeye Huddle, another X's and O's guy, Michael Pettit, who just dropped something a couple of days ago on the defense. So now you got 4 X's and O's guys at Buckeye Huddle. You got 2 guys that cover the team, me and you.
2 guys that cover recruiting, Mark and Alex. It's an incredible team.
And 1 guy who keeps all this stuff together.
Did you hear something?
I did not.
Okay. So, yes, Kevin Noon's here too. So we do want to reset.
Yeah.
Okay. We're at the bottom. We're now past the bottom of the hour. We have talked too nicely about Ross and too cruelly about Kevin. So let's reset things at their bottom of the hour plus a couple minutes here. Just with where things stand with the game, the availability report, obviously always the big story on Saturday morning. So here we go. No Jackson Smith-Njigba is not a big surprise. I think everyone's sort of anticipating Michigan game-ish for Jackson Smith-Njigba to be back. The big story today to me is no TreVeyon Henderson. And, TreVeyon Henderson's name is on the report, so he is unavailable. Mayan Williams' name is not on the report, so he is in Evanston with the team. You've got Mayan, you've got Dallin Hayden, you've got Chip Trainum. How big is it to not have TreVeyon Henderson?
I think what Ryan Day has said earlier in the week is that they have gotten more depth with the running game, and Chip Trainum has helped that, and Dallin Hayden being advanced and mature has helped them. Him coming from a football family, brother was a running back, is still a running back. His father was an NFL running back. So having that kind of guy being the freshman in the class certainly helps. It's just every single week, and I don't know if this is actually true, but there's somebody new every single week and who played the week before and then is suddenly out. And it is, we should just go back and look to see exactly how many weeks it has been, because this is week 9. And I'm sure it feels like, I would say, I'd feel very confident saying 6 out of the 9 weeks or whatever, there's been a starter that has missed time that wasn't injured necessarily the week before, where it's just, he's on the list now. And TreVeyon Henderson carried the ball 16 times last week, and now he's out. And he was seen sporting a boot somewhere, and so that's some foot thing, ankle thing that is just part of the story of this team this year.
Yeah, the running back unit on the whole has just been a complete mash unit. You have Henderson is out this week. Mayan Williams is, we saw him in a sling in a splint last week and has had a knee thing on and off. And so he's not 100%. You wonder how much they really would like to play him today. Evan Pryor out for the season. So really the only guy who's been consistently healthy of the 4 scholarship running backs who entered the season is Dallin Hayden, the true freshman. They moved over Chip Trainum, and even the top 2 walk-on running backs, T.C. Caffey and Caden Saunders, those guys are also both out this week. So they are real thin at running back. Another spot that has seemed a little bit cursed this year in terms of injuries is the secondary. And Cam Brown out again this week. You've got Denzel Burke, you've got Jordan Hancock back now, you got J.K. Johnson, so you got J.R. Brown. You're not in desperate straits at corner anymore. And this is also not a game where, Northwestern is not the deepest wide receiver unit. The win that is going to make it hard for Ohio State to pass is probably only going to make it harder for Northwestern to pass.
Fair point.
So, this is probably not you could see this being almost a precautionary thing. And, this is not, if you were facing a real spread, air it out team, an air raid team or whatever on turf indoors, like, okay, maybe you see Cam Brown. If he's even a little bit iffy, this is a great week to take off and get healthy.
Yeah, you remember the spring game where, I think the turf was a little bit wet, so they're like, Julian Fleming, you just don't even come out here. And it's one of those things. And Ryan Day said Cameron Brown's injury isn't long-term, but what exactly does that mean? It means you won't lose the season, but also we're not going to put you on field that is not ideal for a guy who's been dinged up as much as he has. And I think this will be at least his third game that he's missed, because he missed one earlier in the season. Maybe he missed two earlier in the season, and now this will be, I believe, his second consecutive miss. So that's part of the story of his career at Ohio State, though. And so you can't go into the season thinking he's going to play every single game, because he has not done it. I don't think they were expecting to miss Jordan Hancock, of course. Mm-hmm. I continue to wonder, at what point do they see enough from Jordan Hancock that he starts taking more and more snaps from J.K. Johnson. J.K. Johnson did not have a great week last week, but this is a week to feel better about yourself. Mm-hmm. And so you should see that. But they need to get all of these guys as confident and as up to speed as possible for the Maryland game in a couple of weeks, and then, of course, the Michigan game. So you could see quite a bit of Jordan Hancock today, quite a bit of J.K. Johnson. Denzel Burke, this might be if the score is what they think it should be, I don't think you need to see him beyond the third quarter. You get maybe Jair Brown, maybe a little Ryan Turner out there at some point. But also, this is a Ryan Day nervous Nelly head coach on the road. And what is a safe lead on the road in the Big Ten? And what is a safe lead in this weather is much different than what is a normal safe lead. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that he will operate as, like this is a 17-point lead. Northwestern's never going to score 17 points, but it's like, yeah, but teams can score 17 points in the fourth quarter. It's like, they're not going to, Ryan. Go ahead and put some young guys out there.
Well, and a 17-point lead is safe in terms of winning. Is a 17-point lead safe in terms of not having it turn into a 10-point lead that then looks terrible to the college football committee, their playoff committee? That's maybe a little bit of a different question.
Especially with Clemson playing Notre Dame, where if Clemson's win against Notre Dame is better than 21-10, now you've got a common opponent to judge the number 2 team and the number 4 team.
4 team, yeah. That's a good point.
Clemson could be number 2 by
Yeah, could be, and if Georgia and Tennessee play an incredible another 52-49 or 42-41 or even 31-30 kind of game, could you see something else? Where Georgia's best win is a close loss to Tennessee or vice versa. I mean, Tony, you can't drop Tennessee after a 1-point loss on the road to Georgia, and so Georgia has to be number 1 and Tennessee has to be number 2 and Clemson has to be number 3 because they beat Notre Dame. And there, did you see Ohio State? They only beat Notre Dame and Northwestern by 10. I
don't think there's any argument a 1-point loss to Georgia or Tennessee is better than a 7-point, 10-point win over Northwestern. That's simple math, folks.
I can't tell if you're serious because I kind of agree with that to a certain degree.
It's like it is fact. It's like the loss should matter, but a 1-point loss to either of these teams is much better than a 7 or 10-point win. But wins still matter, losses still matter, and we talked about it on Friday's show about just keep an eye on all of these SEC teams, because individually the 3 of them, Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee, may all deserve to be there, but getting them there is going to be a tougher task for the committee.
Yeah, and the other thing that's kind of weird about this is if you're playing a game in the snow, it's very easy for people to watch on TV and say, playing the game in the snow. Or if you're playing in an absolute driving rain in a hurricane, it becomes the hurricane game. On TV, unless they're showing you flags flying and flapping in the wind, or there's all sorts of stuff blowing all over the field, that doesn't necessarily translate on TV as well. So it can just be, wow, Ohio State's really not looking very good against Northwestern. So
like the only way you can tell on TV is to see the pant legs of the refs blowing, and how close are you watching the refs' pants? Well, other than
Tony, the committee watches every game. Well, just ask them.
Well, and on Tuesday when I call in, I'll be like, "Did you guys watch the pant legs of the refs?" And they'll be like, "We watch all pant legs of every game of every ref. We are that's kind of our thing." It's like, okay, I'm leaving now.
Backing away slowly from the college football playoff conference call. Yes.
Thanks, Boo.
Thanks, Boo. Yes. And in case you're wondering, the selection committee chairman's first name is Boo. This year. Yes. Why would anyone have questions about the legitimacy of the process, Tony? I don't understand. Anyway, moving on. You mentioned earlier the weather the wind is one thing. If you're concerned about guys, this is also potentially be a little bit of a wet field because it's gonna be raining all morning. It's raining right now. You're later on as you get closer to game time. It's supposed to taper off, but even if it does taper off, this is not going to be a sunny, warm 90-degree day that's going to dry the field right out. It's going to be a little damp, and on that natural grass field that can get slippery. So, guys who are maybe a little bit dinged up, they may be a little bit extra cautious with those guys. Just to go through the rest of the availability report, we've talked about Cam Brown. We've talked about Travion Henderson. I think we've talked about Jackson Smith-Njigba. Not a big surprise there. The other guys not available today: Cameron Brown, T.C. Caffey, Lloyd McFarquhar, Mitchell Melton, Jalen Pace, Evan Pryor, Bradley Robinson, the long snapper. He's probably done for the year. So that is Mason Arnold's job now, number 94. He did a fine job last week. So, if you don't notice Mason Arnold today, then congratulations. You're doing your job, and that's fine.
Ryan Day said, I think it was on his radio show, said that Mason Arnold did a fantastic job, but also admitted like he did not sleep well the night before, just thinking about having a new long snapper on the road at Penn State. And I don't blame him one bit for that.
Why? Have things gone badly for Ohio State with kicks in that stadium before?
Have they had trouble with the snaps?
I'm sorry. The Sean McDonough reprising the trouble with the snap line was incredible. That was a tremendous callback by Sean McDonough on the Michigan State game last week. The last two names on there: Caden Saunders, the walk-on running back, and Court Williams, the safety. He's had a big contraption on his arm. You wonder. I mean, it's not dissimilar from the one that Cade Stover has on his arm, but the underlying injury may be a little different. So
this is three captains basically who don't play for Ohio State, and Court Williams, Cam Babb. Tyler Friday didn't even play last week, and he's another captain. And what Ryan Day has said about that in the past is we've got a lot of good leaders, and I think you're seeing that. I think you saw it in Penn State where they were down in the fourth quarter, threw all those points on the board. It helps to have some sophomores every now and again. Maybe throw a captaincy on JT Tuimoloau's jersey if you want, but it's good to see all of these young guys stepping up in the absence of so many captains.
Yeah, and I don't feel like there's been leadership deficiencies on this team, and they've faced some adversity. They faced some adversity last week at Penn State, down on the road in the fourth quarter, stadium rocking, 9 minutes left, and then just calm as you can be. Bing, bang, boom down the field.
Yeah, you haven't seen this team, and there's not been much adversity where they look like lost and they're like a child lost in a store or something. They haven't had that. We've seen them look like that other times over the years, but they seem pretty solid so far.
Yeah, and I'm not anticipating a situation like that today. I'm not anticipating a situation like that next week against Indiana. The road game at Maryland, we have. The last time we were down there, there was a game that was a little closer than anticipated, and with Talia Tagovailoa expected back today. Last I saw my clocks, he was expecting to have him back for that game against Wisconsin today. That game is now, that game is a little bit off of the kind of garbage heap that we've been throwing the Northwestern and Indiana games on.
Yeah, I still remember being like right in that end zone in the goal line for the overtimes for that Maryland game. And it's like, are we really about to watch Ohio State lose to Maryland? It's like, well, did you not see the first quarter when Ty Johnson was running for 300 yards?
Hey, remember a couple of weeks ago when they lost at Purdue by like 3 touchdowns? Yeah, some wild stuff is happening this year, as it turns out. Yeah, that was the final play of that game. That was the Maryland scored down 52-51, decided to go for 2, which is the right call there, because if you have the lesser talent, you try and just get your puncher's chance in there. And the quarterback threw the ball. It was coming almost right at me. And Tough Borland was kind of the underneath defender. And there was a receiver flashing over. I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to catch that ball and they're going to win this game. And it was just out of his reach. They did not lose that game by much. So yeah, we have watched Ohio State play the only close game against Maryland that they've played since joining the conference. Really, everything else has been kind of a big blowout. But this is a series today that there have been a lot of blowouts over the years. Ohio State has won 33 of the last 34. Going back, they lost in 1971. That was the year after the Super Softs all graduated, and Ohio State had a real down year. They were 7-4, and then they lost in 2004. which was coincidentally also a team 2 years after a national championship, and where you had a lot of those national championship players had graduated, and then you're sort of replacing them, and that was a weird one. Were you here for that 2004 game?
No. But I watched Noah Herron run all over Ohio State from home.
Yeah, that was one where I think Santonio Holmes had a punt return. I was at that game, and that definitely did not walk into the stadium thinking I'm going to watch history, and not the kind that Ohio State fans want to see. But yes, that was
that a night game?
That was a night game, yes, and that was a number 6, I think, Ohio State team, because that was the first loss of the season.
Yeah,
where it was kind of like, well, they look terrible every week, but it's a Jim Tressel team, so they're probably fine. And then all of a sudden, then they weren't.
I mean, sure, they needed a 55-yard field goal against Marshall, but what's so wrong about that?
What are you new here? You remember when they won 14 games like that in a row in 2002? Yeah. I don't anticipate this one's going to go to overtime today. Let's get into some score predictions. Let's start with you this time. We started with Kevin last time. I don't want any allegations of one of you guys copying off the other. So go ahead and give us your score prediction.
Yeah, and when I give you my score prediction, realize that when I spoke this first out loud, Kevin was like, "Ooh, that's a good score prediction."
I remember when he said it.
Thank you. I went with 49-7. The daggers coming from his steely eyes. I went 49-7. I feel when I did the score prediction, I took the weather into account. I thought it might even be more rain that day. But when you score, when you have a prediction in the 30s, it just feels like that's too low. And then I'm like, well, you don't have to go to the last 40. Like you could go to the first 40, like you could go 41 or 42. You don't need to go 49. But I was like, no. We'll go 49. And then for Northwestern's offense, it's a lot like Iowa's offense. Do you give them 0, 3, or 7? And so I went 7. I felt good. I feel good, feeling giving. So I think 49-7. I don't know how that 7 is going to happen, but you never know against bad offenses.
All right. So we've gotten Tony's score prediction: Ohio State 49, Northwestern 7. Let's go to Kevin for what I'm sure will be completely different analysis and breakdown of the game.
As we settle in on the 51st anniversary of my birth, the first words I said
Happy birthday,
to the doctor,
buddy.
Thank you. First words I said to the doctor, I was a very early speaker, was in 2022, Ohio State is going to beat Northwestern 49-7. To hell with Tony Gerdeman.
And then he smacked you.
No, and then he smacked me in the face. It was hard to tell. Honestly, this Northwestern team can't get much done. I made my pick so early that really was unaware that weather was going to be an issue 51 years ago. But with that being said, I think that Ohio State will still find a way, as Tom and Tony smartly said, with attacking the edges, some jet sweeps, some things of that nature, some crosses. Well, they won't be just running the ball as Northwestern tries to put everybody in Evanston in the box. But when it's all said and done, Ohio State is just going to be too much for them. 49-7. I really want to pick the shutout, but there's only one of us here that really had the huevos to make that call, and that wasn't me.
Happy birthday, Kevin.
Huevos means eggs. Speak a little Spanish. Didn't want to brag.
Un poco.
So anyway, yes, I went with Ohio State 45, Northwestern 0, and I have a long track record of saying you never pick a team to go undefeated because odds are you're going to slip up at some point along the way. You never pick a team to have a shutout as kind of the microcosm version of that, where you're going to slip up at some point along the way. However, this does feel like, no pun intended, the perfect storm here, where this is a bad Northwestern team that can't really run the ball, 3.1 yards per carry on the year on the whole, and that's when there is theoretically the threat of the pass. Now you're taking away, and they're not a great passing team, 6.29 yards per attempt. So that's bad. 6.29 yards per attempt is bad. And so now you're even taking away the threat of that, and they can't run the ball. I don't know how you put a drive together. So unless you get something silly, you can have a muffed punt, you can have a fumbled kickoff, you can have an interception, you can have a whatever. And if you do, you do. But I don't see Northwestern putting, any kind of a significant drive. I don't see Northwestern being able to string together 10 plays, 70 yards to get in the end zone. And as we said earlier, Northwestern has a whopping 7 points off turnovers all season. So I can't really give them credit for, well, certainly they will force a turnover and get points off of it because that assumes facts not in evidence, as the attorneys say. So yeah, I went 45-0 for Ohio State, and I with the wind being as crazy as it is, and the fact that this is probably going to turn into a little bit of a get the heck out, get ahead and get the heck out of here kind of game for Ryan Day and the Buckeyes. 38-0 would not, I would probably feel better had I gone with 38-0 than 45, but something in that range is probably about right.
I've been wondering how the field goal is going to happen with you with this win, but I think they'll be up at like 28-0 or whatever. And Ryan Day will be like, I just want to see it. And you're just going to you're going to kick this field goal to the corner of the end zone and just watch it come back with the wind or however, let's just have some fun. We're just a couple of guys just having some fun. Let's go ahead and try to kick something.
What is the record long field goal in Ohio State history? Do you know off the top of your head?
I assume it's 55 by Nugent and somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, we
don't recall anything.
We watched Blake Hallbeal kick a 52-yarder here, I think, in 2019.
57-yarder?
I don't remember.
55.
55 feels long. Kevin's working on it, but you could see you got the wind at your back.
Halftime.
Yeah, halftime. Just
72 yards.
Just call a YOLO kick for 60 yards, just because, when am I going to get to call a field goal with a 40-mile-an-hour wind at my back kind of situation again?
When you had those Nerf turbo footballs and you have the wind behind you, let's just see. Let's see. And I'm curious. I want to see it.
Yeah, you could see something like that, but yeah, I'm not feeling tremendous about picking a field goal on a day like this, but it'll be it should be an interesting game. I don't know if this is going to be the most aesthetically pleasing game, but it feels like this is going to be kind of a memorable game. Do we have a record for Ohio State field goals?
1975. Tom Skladany, against Illinois. 59.
59. Wow, Tom Skladany.
Tom Skladany. Wow. But was that a home game or a road game? Does it say?
At Illinois.
With the wind.
At Illinois, in the state of Illinois, I'm going to boldly go out on a limb and say that was with the wind and not against the wind.
Well, I mean, I think it can be both in that stadium. You kick it to the right and it just goes somewhere. I'm
just saying. I think that it circles the globe and ends up going. Yeah, I would not surprise me if you saw some crazy long. If it, Noah Ruggles breaks the Ohio State field goal kicking length record for a single kick. That would be 7-10 points on bold predictions.
Yeah,
can I stake my claim on that one right now?
Noah Ruggles, 69 yards.
Nice. Yeah, I think there's, this is going to be, like I said, this is not going to be an aesthetically pleasing game, but this might be a memorable game.
Yeah, that's true.
This is the one where Noah Ruggles hit one from the moon. This is going to be one that honestly we will remember. 10 years from now, a lot of these games blend together. Tell me what you remember about the 2017 or the 2018 Florida Atlantic game.
Justin Fields' first carry going for 52 yards. That's it. That's all I remember.
Yeah. Okay. So
I want to see in this one a 32-yard field goal end up short.
You might, and this is one where you might get an 18-yard punt that wasn't tipped and
kick
was not,
six on a 32-yard field goal.
Oh man,
put somebody back.
You might get a kick six in this game if you're going the wrong way. That would be. We might see some stuff today.
Hey,
I'm talking myself into this.
We're
game
here
right now. Yeah, you know what? We might as well go to the game. So you know what? We should go to the game. But before we go to the game, we should let the people see a little thing we like to call hungry huddle. When we go on the road, we like to eat. That is a thing we do almost every day. So when we eat on the road, we like to go somewhere different, somewhere interesting. Sometimes we don't end up at the place we thought we were going to end up at, but that's okay because we end up at a fun place that we had a great time and a fantastic meal. Ate conservatively 7 days worth of carbs, I would say. but ended up with a really fun meal and kind of a fun story.
Yeah, no, we did order three loaves of bread, so that's a loaf for each of us.
Not like a full loaf,
No,
but just
but,
like a little basket of bread. But yes.
Yeah. So no, it was all very, very good, and I hope they enjoy it.
All right, so please enjoy this, and then of course we will be back after the game for our usual post-game coverage. You can find that right where you're watching this, youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified. Also, hit that thumbs up. If you have not hit the thumbs up already, please do that. That will help other folks find this show and other shows on this channel. And then do join us for our post-game coverage. Again, youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. That usually starts right at the final gun, right as the clock hits 0. We'll have live coverage from Ryan Field. We will have coverage from some of our analysts, player, coach interviews from hopefully both teams is the plan. And then, of course, our usual Buckeye Weekly instant reaction show following the game, usually a good solid 2 or so hours of post-game coverage. And you can find it all at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. So enjoy that. We will see you then. Please enjoy Hungry Hungry Huddle.
It's very aromatic. It looks, it's just a big thing of cheese. So what can go wrong?
So here we are in Illinois, and when you're in Illinois, what do you want to do, Tony? You want to get
Deep dish pizza.
deep dish pizza. So here we are at Johnny's Kitchen and Tap, world famous Johnny's Kitchen and Tap. What are they world famous for, Tony? They're world famous for being in the same strip mall as the pizza place we were going to go to, but then didn't have indoor seating. So now we're here. And however, I am quite intrigued by our appetizer, which is going to supposedly come out on fire, which we can't be trusted with that, but they have adults working here, so I'm pretty excited to give that a shot.
I think more food should be served on fire. We saw it with the Flaming Moe's. It was a big hit. So I'm looking forward to this. I hope nobody gets hurt, or I hope I don't get hurt. Other people get hurt, I'm okay with that.
A few minutes later.
All right, so what you're looking at right there is saganaki. It is a Greek dish, traditionally served in, it's like a fried cheese. It was, on the menu it said flaming, which, much like the city of Chicago, was on fire at one point, is no longer on fire.
That's good.
Which is probably a good thing before you eat it. And Tony, you had a great observation when it came out. What was your observation?
It smells like cheese.
That's also a good sign. So
Yeah, no, it's very aromatic. It looks, it's just a big thing of cheese. So what can go wrong? Like, that's nothing wrong with that.
we're pretty close to Wisconsin, so I think it makes sense. So all right, go ahead, dig in.
Are we supposed to have something with it?
Come on, do it.
We ate all the bread already.
Eat all the bread
3
already.
times.
That's all right. You need a minute? I'll be back. No problem.
Right in the mouth.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Oh, really good. See, you look at me, I've got a barbecue pulled chicken sandwich. I don't even know how to attack this yet. You've got to go in, you've got to examine where the buns are and how much chicken is there. So I am going to have to spend some time on this one, but from what we had earlier, I expect this to be very, very good.
Yeah, in the interim, we had a chopped salad, and that was really, really good. The saganaki was really, really good. I got a chicken parm, which normally you get that with spaghetti, of course. This one with that is with a penne, which is a little different. A tube pasta with grooves on the side to really hold the sauce. So I'm looking forward to that. And Kevin, 2 weeks in a row. What'd you get?
I got myself a sirloin with a baked potato, butter, and sour cream, and then some vegetables just for color. And there you go.
Thank you.
This is going to be good. I can feel it already. I don't know how messy it's going to be. Mine is going to be messier than yours and yours. That is a very big potato, and that might be the biggest hunk of broccoli I've ever seen. So be careful. Cut this. Use your knife.
I don't eat veggies.
Really?
Really, I eat like a child.
All right, so we finished our dinners. Delicious, by the way.
Yeah.
Everything was really good. I was a little jealous of Kevin's steak. We can talk about that later. But then at the end, it's Kevin's birthday. Not today, but you know,
Soon enough.
you know how old people are with their birthdays. So we were celebrating Kevin's birthday a few days early with a little brownie and ice cream and whipped cream and fudge and you know, I was just saying when this came out, you know what? I'm glad Kevin came on this trip.
Well, let's taste this first.
Didn't stand a chance.
Well, Tom, we are now finished here at Johnny's after a very good meal. I like this place. It's very family oriented. It reminds me of a lot of places I've gone growing up. You can tell there's a lot of regular customers who've been here for years. We talked to Mary, who runs the place, about the Thanksgiving dinners that they do every year. But overall, I was very, very happy with my chicken sandwich. Almost too much to eat, but I still managed. At least I didn't finish the fries, but that's okay. But overall, nice place, really, really friendly staff, constantly running around. So I liked mine. What did you do?
Yeah, I did chicken parm, and I came in thinking I definitely want something Italian. I got the chicken parm. The chicken parm was good, but I was looking at the whole meal. I was looking across the table at Kevin's steak and going, I should have done the steak that Kevin did, because man, that looked really good. But it was one of those places where everything was good. It was we had the appetizer, the salad was good, Kevin's soup was good, we had everyone's meal was good, and then at the end, the brownie sundae was like perfect, because I love like a little bit under, the brownie, not quite fully cooked, like cooked enough you're not going to get sick, but like just real soft and gooey, and
It was.
everything was like, it was just perfect end to the evening. So yes, it was not the place we set out to come tonight. But we ended up with, I think, a fantastic meal, and so sometimes things just work out.
Yeah, and if you're in the area, the Glenview area, stop on by. Tell them the two famous fellas from Ohio and the producer stopped by and recommended that you come on in.